Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 3 things I think you should know about the new moon on January 29th, 2025. It's the first new moon of the year. It's a great time to do all the obvious things that people talk about with new moons. It's a good time to start new projects. It's a good time to start something new. It's a good time to get clear with what you want your life to look like. But I'm not going to talk about those things because most of you watching videos like this probably know about that. What this video is going to be is more so about 3 things that I believe are associated with the transformational potential. The personal transformation is always, the opportunity is always there, more so around the full moons, around the new moons. And I don't know about you, but for me, they always tend to have kind of a unique combination of traits. Usually there's certain types of growth opportunities, whether it be with your relationships, whether it will be with your career or both or something like that. There's usually unique types of challenges, different like growth catalysts that can give us the opportunity to change and evolve and expand and grow and things like that. So this video is going to break down what I believe to be the 3 main transformational themes associated with this new moon. Theme number 1 is seeing why you are the way you are. Around this time already, you might have more clarity as to like how you tick. The different, for example, influences of your past into your current way of thinking about life, current way of seeing the world, especially the current way of seeing and viewing and sometimes judging yourself. Now's a time when you might find yourself just getting little snapshots of insight, maybe memories from the past. Sometimes there can be something that happens in your life that all of a sudden sparks something. Like sometimes if you hear maybe a song, maybe that you haven't heard in, say, several years, you hear that song, it comes on the radio, right? And all of a sudden there's like this stream of memories and experience. There's these things that come back to you that your brain associates with that song. Well, all of this or some of it to some degree might be happening right now, giving you more clear insight into who you really are versus who you really are not. And I'll give an example from my own life. For me, a lot of times this information comes to me in dreams. I'll dream about certain characters and people from my past, and various things like that will really kind of give me an idea of what's going on in my subconscious at the time, beneath my conscious awareness. And something I've always struggled with, it's going to sound kind of, it's going to sound kind of silly actually. Pardon me, I'm getting over a cold. It's the judgments. Part of me cares greatly what older women think of me. I know it sounds kind of weird. Like women who are older than me that have some type of like at least relationship of like authority and their opinions of me for whatever reason, well, I'm starting to realize it matters greatly. And what finally happened just last night, actually, I had this dream. And in this dream, I had this woman who I have not thought about probably 20 or 30 years, this lady who I knew when I was a very, very young kid. When I was like 7 or 8 years old, I got into a fight, like a fist fight with this lady's son. We were friends, but we got into a little fight. And this lady was freaking out there. She was always seen as this like irrational, kind of nutty lady, in the neighborhood. And anyway, once this lady, caught wind of the fact that I fought her son, she had it out for me. I wasn't allowed to go to their house anymore. And she would talk to the neighbors about me being like this bad kid. And for some reason, this lady's opinion of me being like a bad guy, a bad kid, a bad seed, a bad apple, it stuck into my subconscious. It formed into a type of identity to where even now, I'm like 40 years old, I'm going through life hoping to not come off like a bad guy with like bad intentions, aggression, that kind of thing, to who? Middle-aged women. And for years I've attracted people, middle-aged women, older women, who don't like me, who have like a negative opinion on me. Now, many of them like me. Some of them watch this channel. There's no judgment here, obviously. But anyway, just last night in a dream, spontaneously, it's around the new moon here, all of a sudden, it all makes perfect sense. And that awareness, that clarity, it's saying like it's okay to let go of all the effort I put in to molding myself so that I'm perceived as a nice guy by older women. So that's just an example. There's other things as well. What about you? Have there been, especially in the recent months, circumstances, things in your life that have triggered you or upset you that sort of make you wonder, like, why am I attracting this? Why is this happening? Why am I reacting so intensely to this situation that I know logically maybe isn't like the biggest deal in the world? Well, now's the time when you might start to see why that is, and the why can set you free. It can help you redefine your relationship to this particular area of your life, to this particular facet of yourself, and maybe form some more updated conclusions about who you are, about what you're worth, things like that. So for you, it might come in dreams. It might come through just general awareness, watching videos like this, or just different things you're taking in. But be open to kind of taking another look at yourself and allow whatever type of information about yourself to come to you. And there's almost an infinite amount of ways it can come to you. You can be watching a TV show one night and someone says something on the show and you're like, it clicks. But the most important thing is that you spend some time with it. Otherwise, these sort of insights can kind of come and go, and it's like in one ear and out the other. But if you can really say, hey, this means something. Like for me, I wrote it down. Let's see if I can find it. Doesn't matter. I did write it down. I'm not going to read it to you. It'd be stupid and pointless. But anyway, I wrote it down. And I thought about it. Now I'm talking about it. So I'm grounding it in the fact that I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I'm sure that life is bringing you into a situation where you're going to be called maybe to step more into your power and sort of upgrade your life. And sometimes these little like unconscious ties to the past can make this upgrade impossible if we're tethered to the past. And sometimes it's uncomfortable when the new moon shines a light into these areas of our past. For me, this particular one wasn't that uncomfortable, but there's been many times where it is. These little glimpses of truth about who you are and what you've been up to and why you've been doing things. Sometimes it's a very hard pill to swallow, and sometimes there can be an emotional process, some feelings, some energy, some stress, some resistance. All these things can sometimes come with assimilating these parts of yourself, with this shadow, as they say, integration. Right now is a good time to allow all truths about yourself to be revealed. And even though there's a charge sometimes, once the dust settles, it's you're more of a whole person. And the more whole, the more integrated you can become, just the better your life on all levels is going to be. Number 2, if there is a primary message out of the 3 things, this is the one I really felt most inspired to share about. But I believe it's a time to commit to something that on one hand probably excites you and intrigues you and is calling to you, and also is challenging. It's stressful. It's not fun all the time. I enjoy making videos now. But years ago, when I felt like this calling and inspiration to make them, on one hand, I hoped to be good one day. I hoped to enjoy it. But the actual experience early on was very stressful. It made me feel like oftentimes I would be very, very discouraged. And, you might see an old YouTube video of mine, say from like 8 years ago. But for that one video to exist, I might have had to have filmed like 3 or 4 videos that I put my heart and soul into, but just weren't up to my standards, or whatever. And there was just a lot of drama, a lot of like resistance, a lot of confronting my inadequacies and doubts and anxieties and all this stuff for that video to exist. But if you can commit, you can push through. You can not only push through these types of resistances to get to a point where you're able to like really thrive in what you're called to do in a much more harmonious way, but also that resistance and stuff, in my opinion, isn't even all bad. It helps you. And I'm going through this. I've been going through this again with other things. I started playing guitar, for example, like 8 or 9 months ago. And I have a wife and 3 kids, if you don't know, if you're first now seeing my channel. And all of them are really, really musically talented. My wife can sing like a freaking angel. I'm not just saying that, she's my wife. She's amazing. She's a phenomenal singer. All 3 of my kids, they can play instruments, they can sing like very effortlessly. My son Lucas is a freaking wizard. He started playing guitar at the exact same time as me, and he can already play these complex like Slash and Jimmy Page solos like it's nothing. And then here I am plucking away at my basic like chord shapes, not even doing it correctly. My fingers are sore, and I have like no musical. It's not just being negative, but I don't have any musical like talent. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. Music, the language of music, tempo, rhythm. It's like I'm like very, very naive to all that kind of stuff. But anyway, nonetheless, I felt like I wanted to play guitar. I love music. I love to listen to it. And I love rock and roll. But anyway, I'd say 6 out of 7 times I would sit down every day to play guitar for about an hour. 6 out of those 7 times was like challenging. It wasn't fun. But in fact, I read this book maybe a month or 2 ago. What the heck's it called? It's called Your Untap Potential. I can't think of the author, but he talks about this. He talks about when you're uncomfortable, you're learning. When I was uncomfortable with the videos earlier on, all that discomfort is like awareness. It's data. It's like indicative that there's growth and progress and learning happening. And a lot of times people I find, because I'm a business coach now, just like me, they feel called to maybe not play guitar. They feel called to start a business. And in their mind, they can sort of see into the future. They can envision it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be helping people. I'm going to be more abundant, have freedom in my life. It just seems fun to have that type of lifestyle where I'm maybe a content creator or an online coach or something where I don't got to go to a job and can design my day as I choose. It sounds awesome. It resonates so beautifully. But when you get to the time when it's actually time to start building this business from scratch as a complete rookie, still bringing with you all the baggage of the past and your anxieties and your inadequacies and your doubts and I'm not good enough, all that, the step-by-step process of building this thing that feels so intriguing is miserable. But right now, my friends, the time to commit. The time to embrace the discomfort, not to try to find a way around it. It's there and it can help you. One other example from my life that I think is relevant, I've been starting a lot of new things this year. Another thing I started maybe a few months ago is martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, those kind of things. I found this amazing gym in Austin, 10th Planet. And every time I go to class, it's like a half-hour drive, I have anxiety. To me, it's a very uncomfortable environment. It's for obvious reasons. You know, you're going into this class that you know is going to be hard, not just physically demanding, but mentally demanding, learning these new unfamiliar moves that require like fluidity and flexibility and coordination and like grace almost, that you're like new, you don't have any of that, is hard. Knowing that you might be paired up with someone at your level or a freaking killer who's like 20 years old and ready to take your head off, you don't know. So anyway, going to these classes, I never want to go. I have to make myself go every single time. But you know what I noticed just yesterday? So I was going into the grocery store to get some sweet potatoes and some bananas. Made a lot of those. I noticed how not cool, but how like relaxed I felt. I realized that by going to these classes every day that are very uncomfortable and also rewarding and fun in their own way, but uncomfortable every time, it's taking the edge off of many other areas of my life because I'm being forced to like adjust myself and find calm in this triggering circumstance. Things like going to the grocery store, getting my hair cut, all these different things that I for the longest time, I would be very self-conscious, even in these very simple situations. I don't know why, but I'm realizing I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not thinking about it. So too with your new endeavor. Maybe, for example, you want to start a YouTube channel. We'll just use that as an example. And you have these amazing ideas and they come to you from time to time, these bursts of inspiration while you're driving or listening to your favorite song and you think, I gotta share this. I need to do it. But then you go to do it and it doesn't come out the way you felt in the car. It's not as good. There's always going to be a gap, number one. But my point is, the more you do it, the more you're going to find that even if it takes time to get really good at making videos, as it does for anything in life, obviously, guitar, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes persistence. But what you'll find is that, what I found in my YouTube journey, same thing. I had a lot of anxiety at the start and it was not easy coming for me, but I noticed that my ability to communicate in all areas of my life greatly improved. Another thing I want to mention is how I feel after class. This is going to pertain to you too. I'm not just trying to talk about myself, but these are really prime examples. I'm realizing this fundamental process of doing what you're called to do. It extends to many areas of life. But anyway, as I mentioned, it's very hard to go to class, right? But after class, also, I feel awesome. I feel so good about myself. I feel almost high, honestly. And that's how you feel when you push yourself beyond your comfort zone. And whether I had a good class or not, which rarely they are good, usually I'm like one of the worst in the class, whether it's not about that, it's because I exemplified courage, commitment, discipline. I was productive. And you know what? The next class will be easier, but in the meantime, even early on in the journey, you can go to bed at night feeling very satisfied. You can feel like I'm finally in alignment with my path. There's a sense of alignment with being and living who you truly are. That is so wonderful. And it's not something you have to wait for. You don't have to wait to have the amazing online business all set up and then you feel good. No, the moment today, in fact, if you put an hour of action into something you've been called to do, even if it's sloppy and not that good, you will feel great about yourself. And you can, this sort of thing, for me, it's caused me to naturally, honestly, just not do other things that are like simple pleasures. I used to like drink alcohol once in a while. I'd smoke weed. I would do all these little things that would like give me like a kick or a high. Now for me, this is the high. The feeling after class, the feeling after filming your video, the feeling of pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, it can be like the missing link in your life. And then of course, with consistent and persistent and nonstop action, you're gonna get where you wanna go. You'll build the business, you'll rock it out with the guitar, whatever it is you're called to do is gonna happen. It's inevitable when you show up each and every day, but it's like secondary. It becomes like this thing that's not even that important because you're just so satisfied as a human being. So anyways, what do you feel inspired to commit to? Another element of this new moon, which is going to have some resemblance to other ones, it stands on its own. I would say it's a time to, I wrote it down here, to trust in who you are. What comes to mind is that one of my favorite Metallica songs. It's called Nothing Else Matters. If you don't know, you don't care, Metallica is one of the biggest rock bands in the world. They're huge. And they have this song called Nothing Else Matters. And the lyrics, if you listen to them, it's all about them. It's all about the haters, basically. It's all about them and their way of dealing with people, criticizing them, the media not liking them, all the different, you can imagine as like a famous rock band, how much negative comments and stuff are just thrown at you, then the more popular you get, this happens. It's not news to you guys, I'm sure. But anyway, this song, Nothing Else Matters, their lyrics are something along the lines of like, couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trust in who we are, and nothing else matters. They're saying that they know who they are. They know their intentions, whether they're pure or selfish, and all they can do is follow their heart and trust in who they know themselves to be rather than what other people are thinking about them. Most people, myself included, spend an entirely too much time concerning themselves about what people think. And what will happen to you is when you really start to, maybe you already have, when you really start to commit to something that you're called to do, it's going to like elevate you in a very positive way. When you're gonna directly or indirectly become more empowered, become more confident, become just more of an authentic expression of your true self. And whenever that happens, you're going to get naysayers. Usually in the beginning, it's from like people who know you, your friends, maybe your family, even some of you. And all of a sudden they can sort of tell that something's different about you. There's this like glow about you, this aura or whatever. And a lot of times people will react to it in a negative way because it makes them reminded of the fact that they're not pushing themselves outside their comfort zone. They're not being who they really are. Whether you're into basket weaving or rocking out or starting a business, whatever it is, it transforms you. And you start to affect some people. Now, some people, I'd say, unfortunately, a small percentage are going to be inspired by you. They're going to look to you and they're going to be like, oh, wow, so-and-so is really looking good. They're going to the gym now. They're looking sharp. They lost some weight. Maybe I could go to the gym. You know, I'm inspired. I'm going to feed off that. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't want to look at themselves. And what they can sometimes do is sort of bring you down. And sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes it's not. I remember when I started my YouTube channel, same thing happened, man. I had people, thinking it was a stupid idea. I had people who would just make these like undermining comments to me. In fact, one time I was at dinner, I'm not gonna say with who, but I was at dinner with some people who I knew very well. And I was so excited because I've been at the YouTube journey at that time for a little while, and I had 5 YouTube channels, and none of them were succeeding, mind you. But finally, this other one, the one you're watching now, was starting to pick up steam. I had like 100 followers, and I was gaining like 10 subscribers a day, which to me, that was the fastest I've ever grown with all my other YouTube attempts. And I was like talking about it. I was like on fire. I was like feeling really good about myself. I could feel like this momentum building with my very young YouTube channel. And someone said, in that kind of voice, like, how are you gonna make money with it? Like, that's very nice as a hobby. How are you gonna make money? I was so like deflated because I let that get to me. I don't know why either. I wish I could have been more like the folks who wrote that Metallica song, trusting in who I am. I don't need anyone's approval. I don't need anyone to agree with me. I know the feeling of being called by my greater self to do something. I can judge if I'm doing my best or not. And as long as I'm living authentically, as Marcus Aurelius would say, as long as you're living in accordance with your own constitution, with your own true self, your own authenticity, and you're giving it your all, mistakes or not, perfection or not, it can allow us to completely pay no mind whatsoever to what anything on the outside tells us. Because no one knows us better than we know ourselves. No one really knows what it's like to walk in our shoes. Even some of like your big mistakes you've made that you maybe are still hung up on. Look deeply into like what was going on with you at the time. You probably did the best with what you had. That's all we can ever do. So this new moon, if you can sort of tap into that part of it, if you will, and find a way to do as these Metallica folks say, is to just live from your heart and trust in who you are, then truly nothing else matters. And imagine the freedom and the peace. I'm telling myself this too. This is something I need to wire in myself. I'm not above it. Imagine the peace we can feel if we can use this new moon as a permission slip to just stop giving a shit about what people say and think about us, and just to be ourselves as best we can. Before I go, I want to say just big thank you to my boy George. He gave me this shirt at a retreat we did recently. So with that said, I'll see you all next time. Have an amazing day. Peace.